This is the 9th year, and obvious question is that how you are doing it.
I don't think there's any easy answer to that, but infrastructure of happiness has to do with how well the society is functioning.
Two wars are going on. So even in this situation, how this country, Finland, is managing and keeping their people happy.
We are a quite resilient society, and we take care of the society in the sense that it can function also in crisis situations.
So when we talk about happiness, so what it means in Finnish context?
First of all, they can do basically what they would like to do, that they have a good education background generally.
So whatever model you have adopted, what kind of criterias you are adopting and how you are making it possible?
I do believe that the underlying principles like good governance and trust in institutions is something that is transferable in the sense that it can be developed in basically all countries if there's a will for it.
Iceland is there, Denmark is there, apart from Costa Rica, Netherlands and Switzerland. So do they feel envy of you?
I would say that also it still continues to astonish us that Finland still is ranking so high, that people really feel that even if they have to pay very high taxes, that they get, let's say, value for their money.
What kind of responsibilities the citizens they are doing at their part?
There is a culture of helping each other. Finland is the best place to lose your wallet.
Yes.
Because you might actually get it back. When Finns start to do business with somebody else, the trust level is at 100%.
Small family, happy family. Is that also a very important factor?
Finland has been quite, let's say, homogeneous country or culture for a long time. Now, in the last few decades, the population has become more diversified.
You have also spent many years in India. So where we are lacking and how we can improve?
I think equality is an important aspect always in any country, and equal opportunities for people to succeed in their lives.
This is the bottleneck or this is the challenge? What kind of challenges you are feeling to enhancing the bilateral relations?
India's scale, first of all, can be daunting for Finnish companies, that they don't know where to start.
Russia-Ukraine war, it's going on and on and on. Are you satisfied with the mediation of US or you are not satisfied with that?
It really is a very difficult issue to solve. Russia launched an illegal war of aggression against its neighboring country, Ukraine. It was a very traumatizing moment also for Finland. Our President Alexander Stubb has been very active in playing his part, also conveying views from one side to another. But unfortunately, it seems that Russia still is not willing to stop the aggression.
Could you tell us, like UN and others, have they failed to control these kind of wars and they are not playing their role?
We need those international organizations, institutions. If we wouldn't have them, we would need to defend them. We need to reform them as we have them now. And our president has said very clearly that we support also India's position in the reformed council as a permanent member.
What will be your advice to the younger generation of diplomats?
You are in a very tight spot, and somehow you need to try to keep a cool head and try to find a way ahead, what would be useful to do, and not let emotions carry. I think that's very important.
नमस्कार, पॉइंट की बात में आपका स्वागत है। मैं हूं उमाशंकर सिंह। दुनिया में जब कई मोर्चे खुले हों, दो जंग चल रही हो और उस जंग में मानवता पिस रही हो, ऐसे में हर किसी को राहत का इंतज़ार है। हर कोई खुशी ढूंढ रहा है और इस तमाम कोलाहल के बीच एक देश ऐसा है जो लगातार 90 साल दुनिया के सबसे खुश देश में शुमार हुआ है। जी हाँ, मैं बात कर रहा हूँ फिनलैंड की। तो आज पॉइंट की बात में हमारे साथ बात करने को भारत में फिनलैंड के एम्बेसडर किम्मो लहडेविरता हैं और उनके साथ उनका जो अनुभव रहा है भारत में और तमाम जो पहलू हैं दुनिया के, देश के और ख़ास तौर पे फिनलैंड की खुशी के, उस पर हम उनके साथ बात करेंगे आज इस पॉइंट की बात में। तो सबसे पहले आपका स्वागत है। आई वेलकम यू टू माई दिस पॉइंट की बात शो एंड फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई मस्ट कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट यू बीइंग टॉप of the list of the World Happiness Index. This is the 9th year, and obvious question is that how you are doing it?
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any easy answer to that, but I think it's a long-term thing because what we call as the infrastructure of happiness has to do with how well the society is functioning, how people trust the institutions and how they trust each other, for example. And also there are many other things like a good work-life balance, closeness to nature, and that sort of thing. So it's something to do more with how content people are with their lives rather than how joyful or happy they actually are.
Yeah, I will come to that question also. My one important point on which I want to emphasize is that because two wars are going on, so even in this situation, how this country, Finland, is managing and keeping their people happy?
Well, I think the basis is that we are a quite resilient society, that we have kept up, for example, readiness to defend our country. We have, let's say, shelters for most of the population, especially in the urban areas, and we take care of the society in the sense that it can function also in crisis situations. Also, at the moment, we don't see any risks to ourselves. No direct military threat is there against Finland at the moment, but we are prepared for all kinds of eventualities.
So when we talk about happiness, so what it means in Finnish context?
Well, I think it's important that people feel that, first of all, they can do basically what they would like to do, that they have a good education background generally, and that enables many things for them that to choose from alternatives. Of course, the other side is that if things don't go well, there is a social safety net that people, if they fall ill or if they become unemployed, there is a system to take care of situations like that. And people feel that even if in this kind of difficult situations, they are taken care of and there's a system to help them. So I think that gives them confidence that we can then move on.
So whatever model you have adopted, can it be replicated to any other country? Like, I will come to on Indian context also, but what kind of criterias you are adopting and how you are making it possible?
Well, I don't think that it can be replicated as it is because it's dependent on the society. But on the other hand, I do believe that the underlying principles like good governance and trust in institutions is something that is transferable in the sense that it can be developed in basically all countries if there's a will for it.
Mm-hmm. So I was going through the list of that happiness index, and Iceland is there, Denmark is there. If we talk about the Nordic countries, then Sweden is also there and Norway is also there, apart from Costa Rica, Netherlands and Switzerland. So when you meet your counterparts from these countries, so do they feel envy of you, or how you interact with them? And
no, I don't think this is a competition really. I think
no, but it's a healthy competition. It should be there.
Yeah, in a way maybe, yeah, but I would say that also it still continues to astonish us that Finland still is ranking so high in these comparisons. But I think the key really here is that we have quite similar societies in many ways, that we do have these, let's say, social safety nets and good governance and deeply rooted democracy, and that people really feel that even if they have to pay taxes, for example, fairly high taxes, that they get, let's say, value for their money and are happy to do it. And that education is provided to all the kids regardless of their background and so on. So I think these are similar traits, and I would say that that ranking so high together with our neighbors is also a unifying factor, because it shows that we are quite a unified region in many ways.
So you just talked about the taxation system of Finland. I visited Finland 2 years back, though I feel like that I visited Finland many years ago, because that was the best 10 days of my life. So I want to experience that again. So, but jokes apart, my point is that people are paying tax up to 50%, which I got to know there. Even then they are happy. Why?
Well, as I said, I think the underlying feeling is that they get value for their money. And if something happens, there are systems that they can benefit from. And of course, what is important already is that education is free, for example. And
healthcare is also free.
Healthcare is not free, but the charges are quite low in many ways. And even, or I would say that especially in more serious cases, when people really get seriously ill and require hospitalization for longer periods, then it becomes very important that there is this, let's say, social safety net to take care of things, that people are not relying just on some private insurances, for example.
Mm-hmm. It's not like what we feel here in India, that you are paying 30% tax and then you are paying for your children education, then you are paying for heavy, bills for your health if you need any kind of treatment. So that situation is not there. If you pay tax up to 50% and then you feel free, you are not bound to pay any fee in terms of education or in terms of hospital care, health care.
I think there's some truth to it, but actually living in Finland, we tend to see only the negative sides always. Mm-hmm. And we see a lot of things that require improvement also in Finland, in the healthcare sector, in the social securities, in the education. And so it's a continuous, let's say, struggle to keep up with how the world is developing and how people's expectations are also developing.
You talked about work-life balance, which is at par excellence there in Finland. So when I was there in Finland, I got to know about the debate which is going on in Finnish society, that we should call it happiest country or most content country. That debate was going on there. So what's your take on that? The most happiest country is the right term to use, or it's the most content country?
I would say that I also agree that the most content country would be a more appropriate expression, because it really has to do with how people see that their lives are developing and what kind of possibilities they have. So not so much this, let's say, joyfulness or that kind of happiness, but rather that they feel that they are doing fine.
Yeah, it's not about being loud, being, laughing all the time, but it's all about, how content you are within.
Indeed.
And how you are leading your life, day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And you talked about the governance and the political system. My question is that only government is, doing all these things, and the good system, the good governance system is the only cause of being happy, or people are also doing their part as a responsible citizen. So my point is that what kind of responsibilities the citizens, they are doing at their part?
Well, I think that certainly is true, that there are also responsibilities that people need to take care of. And I think one clear example, of course, is the military service in Finland, that all males have to do one way or another, and it's also possible for the females to do it. There's also discussion whether this mandatory service should be extended also to female population, but this is still ongoing. But that's one example. But also otherwise, I think that there is a culture of helping each other in Finland. And also it's been said that Finland is the best place to lose your wallet.
Yes.
Because you might actually get it back.
Yes.
And so there are this sort of underlying, let's say, how should I put it, tendencies, not just in the society, but between people also. And it creates an atmosphere of trust, so not just for the government and official institutions, but also between people. It's also been said that when Finns start to do business with somebody else, the trust level is at 100%. And then if something bad happens, it keeps going down, if that should be the case. Mm-hmm. Whereas in many places of the world, the trust starts with 0, and if there's reason for it, it goes up to 100 or whatever. Okay. So it's an opposite curve sometimes.
You mentioned about the wallet example. So when I was in Finland, again I'm mentioning that trip to Finland, so I got to know that if you throw wallet 20 times, 19 times, it will get back to your house, it will find your house because someone will send it back to you. So that trust level is there in the society, and it is also playing very vital role keeping country content or happy.
Indeed, yeah, but I wouldn't advise you to throw your wallet away because there are also crooks in Finland. So I definitely don't want anybody to try it out there.
Okay.
And especially not with any credit cards or large sums of money.
Okay, so I will keep that in mind. Okay, so if we talk about the Finland population, the population is very less if you compare it with a country like India. So 56, 57 lakh people over there. So that has also a role to play, less population. In Hindi, there is a saying that Chota Parivar, Sukhi Parivar, small family, happy family. So is that also a very important factor because population is very less?
Well, I suppose so, that Finland has been quite, let's say, homogeneous country or culture for a long time. Now, in the last few decades, the population has become more diversified, and also there's, for example, a growing Indian population of at least some 20,000 people maybe in Finland. So we are getting more and more influences and people from other parts of the world. And I think Finland really has become more international, and in that sense also it might be that it's more difficult to control all the groups in the society, or not perhaps control, but to reach them in a way that they feel that they are, let's say, included in the society as other people are. And therefore, I do agree that it's easier to do things in a smaller, let's say, family or society or country. But there are also other factors that may be contributing. Like I said, this unitarian, let's say, nature of our culture of Finland has, I think, played a part also.
Why I ask this question? Because in the same World Happiness Index, India's position is 116th. So what do you think? How India can do better in this regard? Because, I know the yardsticks are very different. We cannot compete with a country which is having just 56 lakhs population. But because you are very experienced diplomat and you have also spent many years here in India, so where we are lacking and how we can improve?
Well, I think equality is an important aspect always in any country, and equal opportunities for people to succeed in their lives. and that really starts with good quality education. So I think that's something that has been fundamental in Finland also, that people have been educated quite well for over 100 years already. And I think since we don't have very many natural resources, for example, we have forest and that sort of things. But I would say that the main resource for the country has been the gray matter, or what you have inside your skull, basically. And if people are educated and if they are given possibilities, then I think the country will thrive. It's really important to get all the talent out of the population.
You also mentioned about the greenery or the forest area of Finland. I got to know that from any city center, if you walk for 10 minutes, you will find yourself in a forest area. So how it is playing a vital role, keeping people happy there?
Yeah, I think it's important for Finns that they are able to go to the forest when they have free time. And many people also have leisure cottages on lakesides, because we have plenty of lakes in addition to forests. And the closeness, this closeness to nature is something that is embedded in the Finnish culture in many ways. And it also helps to keep a good life balance, that you can really leave the work behind you when you go to a forest or when you go to a lakeside cottage, for example, and it's completely different there.
And as you are coming from Helsinki to this very diversified country, so how you think that India and Finland can work in a closer, contact, and how both countries can learn from each other, and what are the areas where we can have better cooperation?
Well, I think we have certain priority areas in our cooperation, and based on how we see the best possibilities. And those are, for example, education, digitalization, clean technology, and also innovation ecosystems. And they are really the areas where also the embassy is working proactively to do things and find partnerships. So I feel that this is important because we do have, let's say, complementary strengths. And Finland, for example, has many kinds of high-quality solutions. On the other hand, India has the scale and also the rapid capability for rapid implementation. So putting these two things together is, I think, a good recipe for success.
Okay, and we have also talked about the education system. Finland is known for education, and India is a very big country. I have also seen through embassy that a lot of educational activities are going on from the Finnish people or the institutions here in India. So how you will rate your success here in India, how people are adopting Finnish way of education, and are you satisfied with the progress you are making here in that regard?
I would say that we have some good, let's say, leads already and good examples of successful cooperation here. We have Finnish international schools here, for example, in Mumbai. A new one is being set up in Guwahati in Assam. But we also have cooperation between universities and other institutions, both to attract talent, but also, for example, for teacher training. And in that sense, in that respect, I think, for example, the cooperation between Turku University in Finland and Punjab government is very good example how mutually beneficial ways of cooperation can be found. But I think the scale is still fairly small. This is an area which I believe has very good potential, but a lot of work is still needed to scale up the efforts that we have been doing so far.
So there are two aspects of Finnish education. One, Finnish institutions coming here and providing education. Another aspect is that Indian students going there in Finland and getting education, and not just education, after education, work opportunity also. So on that aspect, what are the opportunities for Indian students, and how you are welcoming them in Finland?
Well, I think, like you said, there are quite a few Indian students in Finland. We estimate that some 2,000 Indian students are in Finland currently. And there is a room to grow also in this respect. Many of them are studying, for example, let's say, technology or commerce or then other subjects also, I would say, but maybe those are the most popular ones. But I think there are very good opportunities of employment, especially in the IT sector, but also in many other, let's say, companies in Finland in the commercial sector, but for example also in the healthcare sector where we do need people from abroad as well, because the population in Finland is aging and more care services are needed there. So that's one area where we see, let's say, need. And we also operate a program called Talent Boost, which is operated by Business Finland here in India for already many years, where the idea is really to find good partners here in India and promote, for example, ethical recruitment. Because we have seen that there are problems also in this international movement of people. There are all kinds of unscrupulous middlemen who try to swindle people if they are not aware of things by themselves. Mm-hmm. And many of the, or let's say all of the Finnish universities, for example, have very good websites where you can find all the necessary information. And you don't need actually these middlemen to fill in your application or do anything. But rather, we recommend that people do find out about for themselves and do the applications themselves. So that's I think the best way to get approved to a Finnish education institution. And also, if you are planning to migrate to Finland to work there, it's really important that you don't fall for the let's say false promises of these middlemen that we unfortunately see.
So I have two questions at this point of time. One question I asked you when we were having a chit chat long back, that I'm a father of one young boy, and if my son goes there for education, and as a parent, we also want to migrate there. So is there any age limit there that if you are 50 plus or 55 plus, you cannot migrate to Finland, or there is no age bar, you can migrate there and have any kind of job whichever you prefer if you get the opportunity to do that? So what is the scenario on this particular subject?
Yeah, I don't think there's any age limit, but it really depends on finding the job there, that you need to find an employer who is willing to employ you, and there it starts then. If you have a place to work there, then it's easier and possible also to for example get your kids to school or and studies and so on.
Okay, thank you. And another question is that Finland is also a hub for startups, and you have great ideas about pitching the startup, which we also saw when you do that polar bear pitching kind of event. Point is that how you are making new opportunities for startup, whoever starts startup, and how the possibilities of getting fund from Finland, because Finland is also, as I said, that it's a hub for the startups. So how they will be benefited if they approach Finland or they try to get any opportunity over there?
Well, we really see startups as an important area which is really needed in many ways. It's needed for Finns, but also we want to attract good startups from abroad. And we have systems to support them to come to Finland. For example, City of Helsinki and City of Espoo have support programs for them to start and even try out how it would be to live in Finland. But also we have event called Slush every November taking place in Helsinki. And it really is one of the foremost global startup financing events. I know that many Indian startups have also attended it and also gotten their not just good advice and good contacts, but also financing, which is always very important. So we try to encourage interested startups in Finland, in other countries, to seek the possibilities in Finland and come to see how it would be lived there.
You also mentioned about the Indian diaspora, which is very small there, almost 22,000 or 25,000.
Well, not so small in Finnish scale.
Yes, in comparison to our, population, that is a very small part of the whole, population. So, are you happy about that Indian diaspora is small, or you are, not so happy? You need more Indian people over there.
I think there is still room for more. So that's the thing why we are doing these efforts to promote Finland and try to attract students and experts especially. So we do see that there is still room to grow and there are not too many Indians in Finland yet.
And also there are there is no much footfall in terms of tourist. So what you are doing on that front, that more Indians should go in Finland as a tourist?
Well, I think we have companies here in India also who promote the Finnish tourism possibilities. We see Indian tourists really as an important group because I think according to statistics, they are the ones that use the most money when they travel somewhere. So I think it's remarkable and there are very good possibilities for doing exciting things in Finland. Of course, I think the most common thing for Indians tourists is to travel there at Christmas time, for example, or winter time generally, to see the snow and Santa Claus, and especially the Northern Lights. So that's a big thing. But the possibilities in Finland are not limited just to winter, but really the 200,000 lakes that we have, and especially the so-called lakeland area in eastern Finland is definitely worth seeing also at summertime.
And not just from the people-to-people contact point of view, but also from the business point of view, India and Finland can do wonders. And after this EU-India FTA, what are the possibilities you are looking at when it comes to bilateral trade relations?
Well, let's start with the connections because we have very good connection between India and Finland in the form of direct daily flights between Helsinki and Delhi by our national carrier Finnair. So it's easy, first of all, to do business and travel between Finland and India. We have some 100 Finnish companies actively operating here in India. Nowadays, some let's say, or over 20 Indian companies in Finland. Trade is a bit less than 3 billion euros yearly. We estimate that the cumulative investments by Finnish companies to India are some 4 billion euros and Indian companies to Finland about maybe 1 billion euro. Mm-hmm. So we have a good basis for trade and investment and other commercial cooperation. But I do see that first of all the EU-India free trade agreement, which I expect to enter into force by next year, will give a significant boost for trade. I think the EU Commission has estimated that it gives the potential of doubling the trade between the EU by 2032. Mm-hmm. And when our President, Dr. Alexander Stubb, met Prime Minister Modi earlier this year, now in March, they agreed that Finland and India and Finland should be a bit more ambitious, that we should try to double our trade already by 2030. Mm-hmm. So this is something that we will be working very hard to achieve. And helping in that is also, for example, the strategic partnership that we now have between India and Finland. It's called Strategic Partnership in Digitalization and Sustainability. So it's a sectoral strategic partnership where we see especially good potential for cooperation in these two areas, digitalization and sustainability. But we do have as cross-cutting themes also education and innovation cooperation and many kinds of things, which are then included in our concept that we call DESI, or digitalization, education, sustainability and innovation. And nowadays we also like to add there plus M, meaning mobility. So this is the framework that we use when we consider the most important areas where we want to work at. And so the potential is there, but now I think it's important to continue to increase awareness on both sides about India in Finland and Finland in India. Mm-hmm. So that not just, let's say, the big companies who are already here, but also smaller companies, mid-sized companies, especially in Finland, would see the possibilities here in India. And of course, vice versa as well.
So as an ambassador in India, what kind of hurdle you feel that this is the bottleneck or this is the challenge? What kind of challenges you are feeling in terms of to enhancing the bilateral relation?
Well, I think India's scale, first of all, can be daunting for Finnish companies, that they don't know where to start. Of course, the embassy and Business Finland and the Finnish chamber in Fincham are there to help. But also, I think it's important to understand that you can start somewhere. You can start, for example, one of the big cities where most of the Finnish companies who are here already are present. But there may be good possibilities also elsewhere. And I think the key is to get a reliable partner here in India. And in that work, to find good partners, the embassy, for example, can help.
And what changes you have seen in recent years, India's attitude towards Finland?
I think it's remarkable how also India is opening up, and by doing these free trade agreements with many countries of the world, including the EU and also EFTA, for example, and others, is an important sign that India wants to become more international, and India also wants to become a hub for manufacturing, and not just for the Indian market, but also for the global market. And this is an area which I believe is very important also for Finnish companies and European companies in general.
Okay, so if we move towards the global issues, I did my research about you, and I got to know that you have worked as a security policy, worked on security policy earlier in your career. So the kind of scenario nowadays in West Asia, so how do you see, and what do you think, and how can we reach to a solution where the kind of activities are happening there and the global economy is under pressure? So to deal with that, what kind of steps should be taken?
Well, I think always we emphasize de-escalation, diplomacy, and then adherence to international law. We feel that those are essential. Of course, we are a small country, so they are even more so for us. But I do feel strongly that the only sustainable way forward is to build partnerships and operate in a rules-based international order, basically, where you can talk with your neighbors and with your partners and find mutually beneficial solutions. So that's I think the starting point, really.
And if you talk specifically about the Russia-Ukraine war, so it's going on and on and on. My pointed question is that, are you satisfied with the mediation of US or President Trump, or you are not satisfied with that? Because he promised that if he will assume office, he will stop the war in 24 hours time, but almost more than 1 year has passed and he's not being able to do that.
Yeah, well, it really is a very difficult issue to solve, and I think the basis of course, is that Russia launched an illegal war of aggression against its neighboring country, Ukraine. And that is something that has not happened in Europe after the Second World War. So it was a very traumatizing moment also for Finland. We feel that all the efforts to find a sustainable solution for the conflict are needed, and we want to help those efforts in any way we can. Our President Alexander Stubb has been very active in playing his part, also conveying views from one side to another. But unfortunately, it seems that Russia still is not willing to stop the aggression and sit down and talk seriously.
And what kind of threat you feel? Because this war is ongoing for years and there is a security threat also on Finland.
Well, not maybe a direct threat, but the war is spilling also to us in the sense that we have got some drones which have been, let's say, diverted there inadvertently, not by purpose, but it shows that things can leak out to other countries as well, and it's not just Finland but elsewhere as well. And,
Lithuania, Estonia.
Indeed, yeah. And while those kind of things are not constituting a threat yet against us, we do see that a prolonged crisis like this, which has already taken so many years, is not conducive for any kind of development. It has, of course, hampered economic development, not just in Ukraine and Russia, which are suffering from the war, but also in Europe and elsewhere. This war has global ramifications, which have also affected countries in the global south, for example, that it's been difficult, for example, to get fertilizers or crops and energy. And now we see that's especially so with the crisis in Middle East or the Gulf region or West Asia, as you say here in India, that this sort of crisis really do have global effects, and it's very important that we support the efforts to stop the hostilities any way we can.
And as you are a very senior diplomat, would you tell us about the global institutions like UN and others? Have they failed to control these kind of wars, and they are not playing their role effectively?
Well, I think first of all I would say that we need those international organizations and institutions. If we wouldn't have them, we would need to invent them. On the other hand,
or reform them.
Yeah, or I think it's clear that we need to reform them as we have them now, and they were created in a very different world after the Second World War, and it's clear that we, for example, the United Nations Security Council needs badly reforms, and we have been advocating a solution that new permanent seats should be granted to Asian countries, African countries, and also Latin American countries. And our president has said very clearly that we support also India's position in the reformed council as a permanent member.
Yeah, India is also advocating about the reform in UN for very long period. So are you supporting that effort?
Yes, we have also our own ideas of how to reform the institutions, and we are working with our EU partners in this sense. But having served at the United Nations at our permanent mission in early 1990s, yes, I have to say that the work has been fairly slow.
Yes.
To put it politely.
Okay. And if we talk about Finland, and if we don't talk about climate, then there will be, it will not be seen as a very good thing. So my point is that the kind of climate scenario is there and the kind of pollution you feel here. So how you cope with that?
Well, of course, the air pollution here, especially in northern India, is a serious issue, especially at winter time. And here at the embassy, we have very good air purification systems indoor, so that helps. But the bad air quality is really an issue that must be tackled, because it creates a drag for the development of the society by increasing illnesses and all kinds of things that should be avoided. Of course, it's easier said than done, but I think it's important that focus is not lost. That this is a key issue, like water is another key issue here in India. On the other hand, for example, climate change is not something that Finland would be somehow let's say, that Finland could avoid. And we have seen that in the Arctic areas, for example, the average temperature has been rising about 3 times as much as elsewhere on the globe. So we do see some unfortunate effects already also in Finland. And climate is becoming more unpredictable, and these, let's say, extreme weather patterns are increasing everywhere, also in Finland. And that's why I think it's good that we have cooperation also with India about this, let's say, polar research, for example, that how this, let's say, black carbon that settles on ice or snow affects things both in the Arctic, but also Antarctic, and here in the Himalayas, for example.
So how Finland can help India in making India's climate better?
Well, it is limited what we can do because we are only a small country, but we do have some very advanced good technologies where I feel that we have good possibilities for cooperation. And this is something that we see very good potential. Another area I want to mention here, which is very, very important considering the resource, let's say, scarceness or lack of resources that we will be facing in the world, is the importance of developing a circular economy. And that's something that we will be working in close cooperation with the Indian government by bringing here the World Circular Economy Forum towards the end of the year. And that is really the foremost circular economy forum globally, which brings together both, let's say, government officials, businesses, academia, and also civil society to exchange best practices and talk about the best solutions that are there to get things forward.
So as you are going back to your country and you will be living a free life now, so my question is that how your lungs is going to adapt again that Finnish climate, because the kind of pollution you experienced here. So
well, difficult to say, but I don't expect much let's say, effects. We have also lived before in China, when in Beijing, when the air quality was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Also, we have lived in Hanoi in Vietnam, which was also facing similar problems. And we have lived in Belgrade, Serbia, which at wintertime I think has the worst air quality in Europe at some stages because of let's say, geographical features and so on. So we have experienced bad air quality in different parts of the world.
And you are immune to that?
Well, let's see. But it's of course good that in Finland the situation is better. But also there, I think we have times at wintertime when people heat their houses with wood. And that creates also emissions there, local emissions, I would say. But we are not immune to these sort of problems there either.
Okay. And because Finland and India has very vast cultural difference, so how you adapted yourself when you came to India? And especially if I may ask you that we have tradition of having very late dinner. So how you changed your lifestyle according to Indian culture or the practices over here? And what was the challenge on that front, on that personal front?
Well, I guess India's scale and diversity and pace of development are something that requires continuous adaptation in many ways. And I think it means really to have flexibility, patience also, and learning to navigate diversity with respect and curiosity. So you need to have a positive attitude and try to understand what local customs are and why people do things in a certain way, and find merit in that. So that's something that I feel is also a very important lesson overall from my diplomatic career in how to get along with people from other cultures and other geographical locations.
So when you started your career as a diplomat and now you are going to retire, as you just told me, so what kind of changes you have seen in your career when you started the world order at that particular time, and now the kind of wars are going and different fronts are there? So how the challenges has changed, and what will be your advice to the younger generation of diplomats?
Well, yeah, I have during my career followed many international crises from different angles. When I went to the permanent mission of Finland at the United Nations in New York in early 1990s, I got Europe to follow as I was the youngest member at the mission. I got Europe because nothing happens, of course, in Europe. And it only took a couple of months before the war in ex-Yugoslavia started. And then I followed what was happening in the Western Balkans from the New York perspective. Then also I have been following situation there from other perspectives, from Helsinki, from crisis management perspective, from London during the war in Kosovo, and so on. I've also been in China, for example, during the Sichuan earthquake, and I have been let's say, not well involved to some degree, for example, a hostage situation or an attack against Finnish peacekeepers and an investigation after that. So there have been difficult situations that I have been, but I think the nature of these things is always basically the same, that you are in a very tight spot, and somehow you need to try to keep a cool head and try to find a way ahead, what would be useful to do, and not let emotions carry you. I think that's very important. But also for young diplomats, it's always important to keep an open mind and be curious about other countries and about other cultures, other people, because I think this sort of attitude, as well as then analytical thinking and cultural literacy and communication skills, are important, because even if you are tasked basically to advance the interest of your own country, you can't do it alone. You need to do it together with other people and other diplomats, other countries, other cultures. So that's very important, that you have the will to do it together. I think that's the only way they're ready to go forward.
And I find you very cool-headed diplomat, because I have met a lot of diplomats in my journalistic career. So one thing I want to ask you, how sauna helps in keeping your mind cool?
Yeah, I think it's true also that it can help, because it's a place of relaxation for Finns, that when things get tough, Finns go to sauna and take löyly, meaning they throw water on the stove to get the steam out of it. And it really is a very invigorating feeling, especially if you can then dip into a cold lake or sea or pool or whatever, because the contrast is then something else.
So how regular you were using sauna, and the cold bath here in Delhi in your embassy?
Well, I think people vary a great deal. We have colleagues here who go there every day. But I personally only go there about maybe once a week or sometimes not even that often. But it is really important to have a sauna at the embassy also, because it is something fundamentally Finnish. And without it, I think we would feel at loss and not to have that kind of possibility would be strange for us. So that's why I'm very pleased that at the embassy we have a very nice sauna, and not just architecturally, but also functionally, with this cold dipping pool, for example, that we used for this polar bear pitching event.
Yes, and when you will go back to your home, you will have more of sauna and a relaxed life over there.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Any final message you want to give to our viewer before you conclude this podcast?
Well, I think India really has been a great place to end my diplomatic career, because having spent already 8 years before in Asia, in East Asia, in Southeast Asia, and now here in India covering most of South Asia, has really given me a very good perspective of the most dynamic region of the world. And it really has been extraordinary to experience the diversity of India and be able to see so many different places and meet so many people here and experience different culinary kitchens, for example, and cultural things. So it's been really wonderful to be here. And so I'm very happy, Guy, to retire from this posting.
Thank you. Thank you giving your precious time to me and talking to me at this length. And I wish you all the best for your further career or the relaxed life which you are going to now live in your country.
Thank you, and likewise.
Thank you. Thank you. तो ये पॉडकास्ट फिनलैंड के एम्बेसडर के साथ और अगली बार एक और शख्सियत के साथ मुलाकात. फिलहाल नमस्कार.